Hello and welcome to the Drummergy Podcast, a show about life and music. I am here today it's episode 129.
Oh, wow.
Yes, filling that spot today is my new pal, Mr. Kenny Sharretts. Give it up. And the crowd goes crazy.
Crowd goes mild.
Crowd goes wild. Yeah, it's somebody just told me the other night, they said, how was your show? And they said it was fair. County fair.
Yeah. It's little things like that can make a difference, though, in life. Little jokes like
that. Yeah. You just keep it light, right?
With what I've been going through in life, keeping it light is the only thing, man. I've realized that, and I try to do this as a tech, but also live in life, that it's all small stuff.
Yes,
there's big stuff, and when it's big stuff, you know it. And the rest of the time, it's small stuff. Just
absolutely,
de-escalate and live life with a bit more patience and energy and positive energy.
Right, and sometimes we think the big stuff is overwhelming at the moment, but then once you work through that, you go, "Oh, that wasn't so bad." But I mean, there is the stuff that's obviously monumentally hard to get over.
Yeah. And it's funny because a lot of what I deal with as a professional tech is managing an artist's mind and mood in the moment. And when you're getting ready to go on in front of 60,000 people or 25,000 people and the show's pumping and you feel the pump and then something goes wrong, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a big deal and we can fix it, everyone calm down, fix it. Because I have to stay calm. I got 6 seconds in front of 60,000 people to fix it, or I'm probably on a plane.
Yeah.
But managing the artist's mind is also important. So how you stay calm in the moment can really affect how they react. I actually had a situation where one of my artist's in-ears got crushed. About 30 seconds to air of live TV. And, any drummer's going to go, what? I won't be able to hear it. I'm like, no, we ain't got time for that. We got like 15 seconds. Do you want to borrow my generics or you want to just go with one ear? He's like, one ear, I got it. I said, you're going to crush it, dude. It's going to be fine, okay?
One ear.
And we did it, and he crushed it. It calmed his energy, and he just focused. That's what I told him. I said, focus. You're about to perform. Which do you want? No freak outs, And, it was the situation where what happened is what happened. But you can't let that overwhelm the moment for your artist.
Right.
And it taught me a wise lesson about how to continue in my career, always being focused in energy. With that same artist, actually, I had his bass drum pedal break during Live 8. We're in the Live 8 broadcast, 2 billion people watching on TV, 200,000 people out in the audience, and his pedal literally broke. It wasn't the beater shot out. That happens from time to time, but it was literally the shaft where the shaft went in shattered. And I was sitting there, going, everything's going great, right behind the kit. This is going to go good. And you're nervous. It's a big deal. It's a big show. And I'm like, everything's just, and then I heard the of something. And I was like, there's no bass drum. What's up? And I turned my head and I saw it. And I'm like, oh, motherless God, and you just dive in. And thankfully, as a tech, I have a pedal and a snare right there at all times. And was able to literally dive in, rip it out, rip the other one in. And he came right. It was like an 8-bar or 16-bar verse jam thing, probably more like 8 bars. And so it just sounded like a hip-hop drop. It was great. It happened right on one of the verses. We got lucky. And then it came back in right on the chorus. Now, if I'd panicked, freaked out, or going, oh, my God, this is a big deal, which it was, for the moment, in the moment, it could have been a show ender. I stayed calm, and I just focused my energy, got it done, got it fixed, and then sat back down, and everything went smoothly. And I thought my artist was going to be upset, but he wasn't. He was like, dude, you crushed it. You crushed the fix. And he saw what happened. He goes, yeah, let's never use that brand of pedal again. And I was like, done. Agreed, man. Didio. But it kept him calm again, he's on camera, 2 billion people watching. So how you handle moments in life tends to dictate how they go in a lot of ways. The energy you create is the energy that the moment has.
Yeah. Well, speaking of problems, my wife, who I call the producer, said, anyone hear that noise? Yeah, Kenny and I were trying to figure out the noise issue just before we hit live. And Is it? Well, we've master drum tech here. Sharretts is trying to walk me through, and I'm having a dirt moment, I think.
That's all right, man. It happens, man. Sure, as long as we can hear something out of the podcast.
Yes, exactly.
So, because I'm blessed to be here. Thank you for asking. Man,
yeah,
I've had a challenging year, but in the perspective of my moments, I've realized just how far my channel has gone, and how far the knowledge I've tried to share and impart to people has, and not only how far it's gone, but how it's impacted people. And I feel truly humbled and blessed, because in the end, it's not about me or about my ego. I literally want drummers to be free of the worry or fear of tuning. I know so many drummers that don't want to. They're like, well, it sounds pretty good. I'm just going to leave it alone, because they don't know. And I want them to know, because I've been doing this, as a pro drum tech for 24 years now. And just over the time of my life, I've figured out a way to tune drums that is simple, scientific, and repeatable. And man, I just want to share it with people. So one day, 3 generations from now, a parent turns to their child and goes, all right, I'm going to teach you how to tune drums in the way this guy named Kevin Shorts taught me.
Kevin Shorts.
Because by the game of telephone, by then, it's going to be Kevin Shorts, dude. It's not going to be Kenny Sharretts. It's got right. Kevin Shorts, man.
Well, I always introduce myself, and I'll say Fred, and they'll say, nice to meet you, Brad, or Jeff.
Yeah, I get a lot of Kevins.
I don't know if they subconsciously think, oh, this guy's name, that's no way it's Fred.
Yeah.
This possibly can't be right. Did I hear that right? Fred Fisher?
Fred Fisher!
So I want to get into, I usually start the show off with like a silly holiday thing that's happened. And there's really not that much. But to that, I think this might tie into kind of what drew me to Kitty Sharretts. Is today is National Repeat Day, and it says it's an opportunity to repeat a positive activity or experience. So it's National Repeat Day.
National Repeat Day.
Yes. And to all those who are out there listening, Kitty and I don't know what's going on with the sound, so we're just going to work around the little noise. We're going to have fun. Kitty, you're in Texas, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you a big barbecue guy?
I do love me some barbecue, bro. I ain't gonna lie, man.
I had a feeling you would. So my number 3 son just graduated high school, and we had a big party for him, and I cooked a 23-pound brisket. Oh, it was that's the biggest brisket I've cooked so far, and it was a good time. And he's involved with drum corps.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Playing tuba. So this will be his second year doing that. My number 1 son played in the battalion drum corps on snare 2019, 21, 22, and then aged out 23. And we're drum corps parents. And
yeah, you've properly poisoned their minds.
Yes.
No, drum corps is amazing. If there's one thing I could repeat in life, it would be my time in marching bands.
Yeah.
And if corps had been bigger here in Texas, or I'd had a bit more financial wherewithal, I probably would have done it, because I loved it that much. There was nothing like it. But when I came to UT,
that's for sure.
And oh yeah, dude, it is a financial commitment, but it teaches you so much about the instrument and so much about playing with others. Yeah. But also just how to create something great with a team, and how because I remember doing the Olympic Festival marching band in Houston when it came to Houston, and Jay Wanamaker was the director, and Lamar Burkhalter and Greg Reinhardt, who ran the Westfield High School drum line, which was number 1 in the state of Texas and became a nationally recognized thing. The experience was incredible. I got to understand what corps was, sitting there for 2 hours running a roll or accent exercise, and faster, and then somebody slips up, back to the beginning, all the way, and you just, the discipline of it, and but at the same point in time, it creates, you don't realize what it does for your chops and what it does for your playing.
Yeah.
And actually, marching band is where I started my 2-key drum tuning technique. That's where I figured it out, because I had a head pop.
Yeah.
And in high school, and we're doing the dress review, and you're like, oh no, and I'm like, I had to flip and do the head. And I'm like, one will not do, and I'm just, and then it hit me. Wait a minute. And I started getting into the mathematics and the physics of it over time, and that's how I started tuning my drums. And then when I went out in the tech world, the engineers that I work for made it clear the difference it made, which I've been blessed. All the engineers I've worked with have always been very kind and respectful and appreciative of what I give them as a drum tech, because the way I tune drums, in general, they all tell me the same thing. They've all brought me out to the front. And it's so humbling, because some of these engineers are legendary, but they come out to the front. They say, come out. I want you to see what your tuning does for my EQ setup. And I go out there and I'm like, there's no EQ on the drums. There's just shelves. And they're like, I know, I love you, man. Because by making sure the drums are just natural sounding and there's no EQ, they have EQ to use to make the voice come out, or to shape a guitar tone, or really use EQ where it belongs on the other instruments, so you can create a nice mix. But if all of a sudden your mix is full of 4K to make the toms and snare pop, then the voice gets sacrificed. The piano gets sacrificed. And it's not about drums, it's about whose name's on the marquee.
Well, I think you brought up a really important point as far as EQ goes. I'll come back to that in a second. I know that in search of information on YouTube, I stumbled across your YouTube page years ago, and what not only drew me in was the information that you provided, was how you were providing the information. You were really energetic and excited about what you're doing, and it drew me in to just really pay attention to what you had to say. And then I garnered that information and applied it to my purpose. And so when Chad Brandolini's here from Vader, Chad, that's my bro. Chad's a wonderful human being, man. Yes, he is. One of the best artist reps I've ever worked with. Incredible human being. Yeah, Chad, I haven't talked to you in a little while, but Onyx Micro just brought me on as an artist yesterday, so I'm excited about that. So cool. And Chad was my first endorsement for Vader. Oh, that must have been a glorious day. Good thing for repeat day. Go back and see, today's repeat day. You get to repeat it with an Onyx, endorsement, dude. Yeah, exactly. It's the little victories, man. It really is. So, I mean, it was just like your energy, Kenny, and how you were explaining things. It wasn't like, it was there was no well, here's what you do. You had this excitement to it. You mean Kennergy? Kennergy. Yeah. Ken there instead. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. That's kind of you, man. I mean, I get geeked about it. I get excited, man, because good drum sound for a drummer makes a difference. I actually had played a gig. I came back from the second leg of Dead and Company's residency at the Sphere, and I popped up my Rogers kit at this gig. And what it was is we have a gig at a club called the Lucky Rabbit once a month with this cover band I'm blessed to play with called Keepers of the Rock. And they were having an opening act because it was a big benefit show, and they were like, well, we got an opening act, and they got this tiny little door to load in by, and it's like a 3.5-foot jump up to the stage. And I'm like, you know what, man, we have 30 minutes to change over. There's no way in the world we're going to get two bands changed out in 30 minutes. Why doesn't the drummer just play my kit? And they were like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, just bring your own cymbals, man. You can use my riding hats. Just bring your own crouches. You can play your snare. I'm like, yeah, what's he going to do? Knock it out of tune? I'll fix it, Oh, my drum went out of tune. I got the ball, And Cat, wonderful Cat, man. Pretty good drummer. And what was beautiful is when he sat down at the kit, he was afraid to hit him. And I finally said, bro, hit my drums. That's what they're made to do. So he starts hitting them. He's like, oh my God, these sound great. And I'm like, beautiful. And then he played the show. And as the show went on,
you could see him getting more excited, more pumped. And then by the end of the show, he was just rocking away. And I was like, yeah, and I got to hear my kit properly played out front. I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean? And at the end of the show, he came up to me and goes, dude, thank you for letting me play your kit. I really don't know how to tune. I have an older kind of student model kit. And I'm always embarrassed about my drum sound. But when I had your drum sound, I just felt like I could play like a champion. And that's one of the reasons I started the channel, to make sure that drummers empower themselves to sound great.
Yeah.
So you walk in and there isn't a sound man treating them like crap. The sound man's like, hey, man, you know how to tune drums. You do that for a sound guy in a random club, 90% of them are going to show you massive respect. And your show's going to go so much better, and then and all the hate can be heaped on the guitar player or the singer or whatever, but not on me,
Right. Yeah.
But, and so it matters to me. So I get excited because also, if you're all, that's all Bueller.
Right.
Bueller. and nobody wants Bueller, man. And just, I had an experience once with Stevie Wonder where I had not been with him for about a year. I'd been with Rihanna, and I came back and did a show with Stevie. And he stopped sound check after like the first song, like a couple of minutes in. He goes, stop, everybody stop. And he turns to the front of house guy, to the MD, and he goes, Nate, the drums, they sound so good. And he goes, yes, they do, Stevie. And then Stevie Wonder said, Kenny's here, isn't he? And I was like, nice. I'm looking left, looking right. Everyone's doing their other stuff. Nobody really paid attention to what just happened, but I did.
Yeah.
And I was like, and that's what really made me realize that what I'm doing is special and I need to share it with the world. And that way, drummers just get great drum sounds. Plus, I travel a lot, and I'm got a bit, admit I'm a little bit selfish. If I'm going to come see a band at a club in a random city I'm in, I want the drums to sound good, man.
Yeah.
So hopefully
you're forever the critic now.
Yeah. Hopefully they watch the channel or got one of my step-by-step annual lesson packs to teach you how to tune drums step-by-step.
Yes.
Which is actually the real juice. Like what I show you on my channel is a lot of good information. If you've been tuning for a long time, you can figure it out. But if you really want to get straight to what it is and straight to tuning drums in a way where you're like, dude, I'm done, and they sound great, check out my lesson packs on my website because I've made them super cheap. They run for a year. If you have it for a year and you use it and review it, you'll never need to rent it again. I try to make it so cost effective for everyone. So it helps support my channel, supports me. And at the same point in time, gives you a wicked set of tuning skills.
Let's tell people at the moment right now, like, what is your website, Kenny, for that?
It's www.kennysharretts.com. And I'm currently running a $5 coupon code called June space Tune, all capital letters. June Tune. It's my June Tune special for $5 off any annual lesson pack. And the funny thing is the first lesson pack is $45. If you take $5 up, it's $40 for a set of just a complete set of great tuning lessons for the dude who's been doing it for 24 years. The second lesson pack is like $60. So with the code 55, and it includes everything on all my lessons plus anything I add for the course of the year. Like during the course that your subscription, if I add any lessons, boom, it's in your pack. And I'm getting ready to shoot a whole bunch of really good content ideas and really good things that'll help drummers get even better at tuning. So it's coming. And then there's the third pack, which I truly consider the value pack. It's $100. So with the $5 discount, it's $5 off. You get that whole $60 pack, like all lessons added to the year. Plus you get an hour lesson with me. And with the code, it means you just got an hour lesson with me online lesson, $35.
I love that.
And what that ends up doing is that you also get a $20 discount on any other lessons that you do with me. And the average drum tuning lesson to get through a kit is, 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours. We'll get your kit, snare, bass drum, 3 toms dialed up if you listen to me. But what it ends up being is that you get a whole library of lessons for a year, basically for free, because 2 hours with me is 80 and 80. That's 160. And with the discount, you actually get it for 155. So it'd be the price of 2 hour lessons, and you get 2 hour lessons and access to my library. And
money well spent.
Dude, I'm telling you, I try. A lot of people that I've done lessons with that work at music companies and music corporations keep telling me, you need to charge more for this. And I'm like, yeah. So the dude flipping burgers at Whataburger, or some cat who works at an auto shop, barely scraping by, or just, doing all right, but doesn't have cash just to drop, I'm going to go charge that guy $300 an hour? No, I'm going to die one day, man. I'd rather I have so much fun doing these lessons and connecting with drummers all around the world. I mean, I've done drum lessons in Istanbul. I've done drum lessons in China. I've done drum lessons in Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand, all over Europe, all over South America, Canada, Africa. I have a lesson coming up with a cat in Morocco. I mean, one, I'm blown away that it's gotten that far. It's spread that far. But two, what a joy, man, meeting drummers from around the world and actually kind of being their tech for 2 hours. Yeah. And the best part for me is that they'll actually reach back out with a question here and there. And if you just pay me for 2 hours, I got a couple for you.
Sure.
And if you need more advice and you come back, I'll give you a discount on that because you already did the main lesson. I want it to be a value thing so people come get the information and education, and we have some fun. It's a blessing, dude. There's no words for it. So check it out, KennySharretts.com.
KennySharretts.com.
June Tune, June, capital letters, space.
I'm going to see if the producer.
TUNE, capital letters, space.
Can you put your website in the comments? All right, the producer will put your website in the comments here.
Thank you, milady.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To tell people a little bit about your resume, and then we'll talk about how you got there. So
man, of course.
You're a world-traveled, well-known drum tech. You also tech keyboards, you do playback stuff, all programming, and travel the world with, most recently, Dead & Company. You have the residency in Sphere.
With the inimitable Mickey Hart.
With Mickey Hart.
That dude. What a icon in terms of just doing so much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Author, solo artist, member of the Grateful Dead, member of Dead & Company, an artist. He's an incredible artist, too.
I saw the photo, and I used one of them where it looked like between the drum kits and that wall of drums on the other side. I would love to see you do a video of that whole setup. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Those videos out there, I just can't get too deep into it. With the Dead, you have to be respectful. If they want you to do a retrospective of his system, they will ask you.
We've been around the world with Stevie Wonder and Janet Jackson, Trey and Rihanna, Enrique Iglesias, 30 Seconds to Mars, American Idols, Kelly Clarkson, Michelle Branch, Melissa Etheridge, Josh Stone, Smash Mouth, and on and on. Worked for Kenny Aronoff, another hugely inspirational guy.
I owe Trace Foster and Kenny Aronoff an unending debt of gratitude because they gave me my first chance. And you walk in the door, you're taking care of Kenny Aronoff. It's not kind of I did pretty good on my... No, bro. You need to be on, and you need to listen and learn. And, in our industry, a lot of times, there's the hazing per se, or the just, you're new, shut up and do what I say. And you know what? I shut up and did what they said.
Yeah.
And it paid off. I was blessed to be trained by two legends in the business, Trace Foster, Val Jean Liker, God rest his soul. And they taught me so much about being a roadie. And it's not just about setting up drums and tuning drums. It's about loading them out.
Yeah.
For anyone who wants to be a drum tech or a keyboard tech or any kind of tech, there's a phrase in the industry called, it's all about the out. And it taught me a lot about planning, and it taught me a lot about being proactively reactive and making sure that you're moving at the end, because you think, backline, they're the star of the show, right? No. The star of the show is the star of the show. After that, it's video, then it's lighting, then it's audio, then it's management, then it's the background dancers, then it's the person who does the costumes for the background dancers, then it's the guitar techs, keyboard techs. Oh, then it's the drum tech.
I saw on your website. I can pack a truck really well.
Yeah, hey man, it matters. On the final tour, there's so much drums with Mickey, and we got to be faster and we got to be quicker. And I was like, dude, we're getting quick loadouts, but it's tearing me up physically. It's a lot of work to set up. And so what I did is I designed a clamp, blessedly with my friends John and Mark over at Solid Stage Customs, and we decided an aircraft aluminum clamp with a rubber lining. They chose the best interior rubber lining to mount the racks to the stage. Now everyone's like, oh, you can use a pipe clamp, you can use this. No, you can't, man. If a truck tilts too hard, it's going to rip the leg of the rack, or it's going to cut through the leg of the rack, or it's going to slide, or what. I'm like, no. We can't do that. Mickey, it has to be exactly the same place, every inch of that rig. And because that in its own right is important. That we'll talk about the brown M&M factor in a minute. But we designed the clamp to roll, and we could break apart the racks and roll it in. So I was able to leave some of the bigger drums on, take everything else off, box it. And the first 2 or 3 loadouts, it was disaster. And the production manager was like, this is too much space. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And then my partner in crime, Nick Rich, he was in there packing the truck, and he did this one thing where he stacked 2 cases. And I've been drawing it out and mapping it out and thought I had it perfect, but there was always just, we had to cram it in, get to the next gig. He did this 1 case stack. And I was like, and that was it. All of a sudden, the pack was perfect again. And we were getting that whole drum rig into the truck, doors shut, in between 17 and 18 minutes.
Wow.
And you see how much gear I have.
Yeah, oh yeah.
At best 20 minutes, but 20 minutes is with the truck driver strapping it down, maybe put a few things extra in, going, oh, long drive coming up. So and again, that's important, because when my first tour, Trace and Valjean would stack the entire back line to the ceiling on the dance floor, which is the raised part of a truck that some people have for the wheel wells, basically, but it's a big raised thing. It's about 4, maybe 6 feet at best. And they literally, it was a wall, perfect. And I was like, so that's how you do it. Okay. Yeah. All right. Because again, it's about efficiency. It's all about the out. If you can get out of there quickly, then everyone gets to the shower sooner. They can all rest. Video's been loading in since 7:30, man. Audio started at 7:45 or 8 o'clock. Sometimes, the riggers are going in at 6:30 in the morning. You got to show respect to those people and make sure that they're well rested and get the time they need to chill. Because they're hanging stuff over your head, bro.
Right.
It's common sense, but it's also courtesy, and it just makes for a better vibe and a better show when you do that.
Yeah.
And then again, brown M&M factor with Mickey, one drum out of place, bro, and he's going to start thinking, well, what else is out of place? Again, I'm about managing minds. I don't want him to think that. They talk about the brown M&M story with Van Halen, and what an exotic rider. Oh, they must have been real, just whatever. It's like, no, bro. Back in the 70s when they were touring, in the early 80s, sometimes electricity was shoddy, and sometimes things weren't done right, and all of a sudden they run across the stage, part of the stage falls off, and he's all, are you ready to up? Or Eddie goes up and he's getting shocked on his microphone, and so they invented the brown M&M rider to make sure that if people at the venue are going to be diligent enough to sort out all the M&Ms, so there's no brown ones, then they probably paid attention to the stage setup too.
Yeah.
If they didn't do the brown M&Ms, they'd go through the stage, their stage manager would go through it head to toe to make sure everything was safe. And it was a way of them kind of regulating how they felt about the stage. Now, I'm pretty sure after
getting done.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure after everyone touched the M&Ms, they weren't eating them. Yeah.
Now, we live in a culture now where you think about those kind of things. You can't go to the bar and eat the peanuts out of the bowl.
What?
They used to have peanuts on it. Ding ding. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, but it's funny. So you asked how I got into it. How I got into it was playing music. Trace Foster moved to Austin with his wife and kids, and we started recording music together. And we met through a friend of mine, Spider Wallace, great dude, great drum tech, great touring production guy. He had been helping my band Voxbox back in the day when we had a residency at Steamboat and the Black Cat back in the Austin heyday of 6th Street. And, he would tech drums for me. And he taught me a lot of valuable lessons about drum teching in general, like the way his first drum tech gig officially was with Peter Criss. He came through, played this club. He went to the show because he's a big Kiss fan and realized nobody was really taking care of Peter. So he said, screw this, and started teching the kit and taking care of things and tuning things up. And Peter was like, wait, what's going on here? And then he hit the drum and he goes, oh, well, carry on, son, carry on. And at the end of the night, he told management in the tour group, he was like, hey, man, you guys need a drum tech. And they were like, well, you know what? You did a pretty good job. If you're here at this corner and this corner at this freeway out on the outskirts of Austin at 5 a.m. when we've got to roll, or at 6:30 a.m. or whatever ridiculous hour of the morning it was, then you could be the drum tech. And guess where he was?
He was there.
Boom. At this random corner. His girlfriend going, what, are you sure about this? And these people ain't going to show up. And they did.
Wow.
And so it taught me a lesson about being where you want to be, being there. If somebody says you have an opportunity, take that opportunity, take it seriously. Because he later introduced me to Trace. Trace and I did a show at South by Southwest where I actually had to fill in for the inimitable Kenny Aronoff. And, when I was done setting up rehearsals, because the rest of the band was coming from out of town, setting up rehearsals, setting up the PA for rehearsal and getting them all the coordinations of how to get to where they needed to be. I've got a bass player, a background singer, and we rehearsed all the parts together and we're ready.
Yeah.
And we had successful showcases. We did several. And in the end, Trace goes, hey, man, you seem to have the skill set to do this. You want to come out on tour with Melissa Etheridge taking for Kenny Aronoff. Now, little did I know that one, they wanted an energetic go-getter who just stayed out the way. But two, by paying me less than they would pay a experienced tech, they got raises.
So Aronoff was your first drummer?
My first client, bro. One of my heroes, one of the kindest people in the world, one of the most professional, badass drummers who does it the way it's supposed to be done, yo.
Yeah.
So that's who I got to study under, learn how to take care of. You're switching his drum heads every show. He hits so hard. You can't, there's no, I guess I'll just let these tom heads slide first. Nope. Every show. So it taught me the pace, how to manage my time, how to really be on point for everything. And I got to deal with a lot of electronics, triggers right away, pads, everything. And also, handling mines, packing a truck, bus etiquette, all the things you have to do to make sure that you are winning on the road. Actually, it's funny. I remember with Kenny, he had 3 pads over here, right? And running through his D-drum thing, and he would have his samples on 1 or 2 of them that were right close to him, like right to the left of the hi-hat. 1 and 2 were his samples for Melissa's shows, or the loops that he would play to, because he played to a click, and that dude was just incredible. Yeah. And then he had a tambourine sample all the way over here that he would hit with his endorsement tambourine, just to make sure, and that it was actually a sample of that tambourine, to make sure that the tambourine was heard in case it was an outdoor gig and it wasn't mic'd very well. And during one show, he kept misfiring this trigger. And then the next show, he misfired the trigger ahead of time, like they're in the middle of "Come to my window," tambourine, right? Melissa's looking back going, what the? And then he didn't get pissed off, but in the moment, it's heat of battle. He was irritated. What's going on? What are you doing? And I said, I'm doing nothing, bro. Your tambourine sample's all the way back over there, so you're hitting the loop. Stop doing that. Why don't you just make an all tambourine sample for come to my window? I'll program it in. We'll put it in the set list, and that way, problem solved.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and goes, that's a great idea, Kenny. Let's do it. And we sat there and programmed it together like 2 little kids.
Yeah.
Because Kenny's great, dude. He's about solutions. And he taught me about being what I call proactively reactive, man. If you prepare for it, if you prepare for something to go wrong, if you know where your bass drum pedal is, your snare is, or anything like that, and what programming issues come along, you have extra cables in case the MIDI cable or the USB cable goes out, you can be calm and just walk out there and go, boom, 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 boom. You know, you even have a glass of tea ready, so it looks like you were actually coming out to bring a glass of tea for the guy rather than fix a cable. You know,
so when everything's falling apart, you have to be the guy that even inside yourself, maybe you're freaking out a little bit, but you can't appear that way.
Absolutely not.
You just got to go, hey, it's taken care of. I got you.
Bro, one of the biggest compliments I ever got was when I was out with a band I love touring for. I got to do a run with them called the Decemberists. And lighting guys are normally salty. They don't like anyone. They barely even like themselves. But he was talking to the production manager, and I walked in while he was saying this. He said, you know, Kenny, you know what I like about Kenny? When he walks out on stage, it looks like he belongs there. It looks like it's part of the show. Like, this is all cool. He doesn't look out of place. He just walks out there, crushes the situation, walks back out. And if you can do that, not only does the audience not notice necessarily that there's a dude on stage, but the mind of the artist, you know, you don't want to cause panic in them. You don't want them freaking out about nothing. If something's going wrong, they're already freaking out. Don't add to it. Just fix it. Fix it.
Well, my band that I've been in Midline, we've been around since 1990 here in Boise and toured regionally and had an independent record deal for a while and toured a bunch.
That must have been awesome.
It was, and we opened for so many national acts. And what we learned early on in that whole process was a lot of times if you cross paths with the artist, it's just like down the hall. Hey, how's it going? Cool. And then you keep going. So we started becoming friends with all the touring techs.
Yeah.
Because those are the guys that are having to deal with us, you know. We're the inconvenience of the day to them. So we're like, let's
opening bands here. Opening acts in.
Yeah. We didn't come in and go, what do we do? You know, we kind of had our world figured out, and they always appreciated that. But we did a few shows with Motley Crue.
Oh, wow.
And that whole thing was so intense. I mean, before we did any shows with them, we're like, this is going to be so great to experience this. Well, the production crew and there was just so much drama going on. And I think in hindsight, it had a lot to do with the band members themselves really didn't get along. So they were all in their separate.
When does that happen?
That
never happens, man.
Right.
They're just like the picture on the record cover, you know?
But there were two people that were super cool from the Motley Crue camp. Their head of security, whose name was Hawk, and then Viggy, who was teching.
God rest his soul. I love that dude. Viggy is, again, he's epitome of cool, chill.
He saw all the chaos that we were dealing with, and he walked over to me and puts his arm around me. He goes, "It'll be fine, bro." And patted me on the back because, you know, so much was going on. It was just, let's get the show over with and then on to the next show. And Biggie was so cool. And that, I don't remember, I think that was in 1998 or 9. It's been a while. And then in the early 2000s, we played with Godsmack. And
wow,
we're rolling in our cases and Godsmack's doing their sound check. And I see off stage left, Biggie's back there. Well, he was teching drums for Sully. And he goes, Midline, right? He goes, I remember you guys out when we did shows with Motley Crue. And, you know, small talk or whatever. And then Shannon Larkin was so cool also to me.
Very cool.
Their whole camp, Kenny, was so accommodating.
Yeah.
We got there and they're like, what do you guys need? You guys want a drum riser or do you have your own riser? This, that, the other. Our front of house guy, they, you know, whatever you need, you guys got. You know, they totally took care of us. It was such a great experience. And I'm playing and Biggie's downstage right down the stairs watching, and Shannon's in the stands off stage left going, yeah. And get done, and Viggy walks up and just gives me a big bear hug. And then 6 months after that, we're doing some shows with Seven Dust, and the first person that walks in was Viggy.
Yeah.
And he's just like, Fred, dude. And so when I heard he was gone, that was a sad moment for me.
Yeah, sad moment for a lot of people, man.
But we always went out of our way to be friends with the techs, because those are the people that we dealt with directly all the time. And then, you deal with those techs with one group, and then, a year later or something, the same techs are working for a different band. Yeah. And so you kind of build this relationship with those people, and it makes the whole night go just so much smoother than not.
Dude, make friends with the techs, make friends with the house. It's the same thing with as a tech, or a musician. When you walk into a union hall, make friends with your union crew, dude, because those are the people that are going to take care of you, and that's where everything you need. Like if all of a sudden a pedal breaks and you don't have a backup pedal, more than likely the local union crew or the crew on the other with the other band has what you need or can have it here in minutes.
Yeah.
I've
even experienced. We've done shows with Skid Row from the original lineup through all the different singers that they've had, and Phil Verone was drumming for them for a while, and he was flying into town, and he was late, so we were loaded in at the gig, and UPS or something shows up with all these boxes, and it says DW on the box. Okay. They open up the boxes, it's a PDP kit. And the tech, I don't remember who the tech was, he's like, oh, Phil's not going to be happy about this. This is supposed to be a DW kit. And I have a DW kit. And the hi-hat stand they sent was some spindly little entry-level PDP. The stand's as big around as my pinky.
Yeah. Not good enough for Skid Row. You know what I
mean? Mary's telling me this problem is me for sure, and then I'm cutting out when I talk. Really? My setting? I already did. All right. We're pausing this for 1 second here.
No worries. Pause away, my friend.
See? This is the correct setting right here.
Are we paused?
Well, we're still alive, but... Don't lift up your shirt, Kitty.
What?
Don't.
Now, my mic still sounds good, right?
It does.
Excellent.
We might switch a microphone. I'm going to let the producer work on that while I continue my story. Which I don't remember.
You were talking about the spindly hi-hat stand for
yes, thank you.
With Skid Row. See, I listen. I pay attention.
I love that. That's why you got the gigs. So in the back hall of this venue, Phil's back there. He's not happy, for one. And I said, excuse me. I said, I have this DW 5000 pedal and this DW 5000 hi-hat stand and this DW snare stand. I said, you're welcome to use it tonight. And his whole demeanor just went.
Well, yeah, dude, because it's like PDP, their PDP kits are killer. You know, as far as like, entry level or mid level kits.
Yeah.
The PDPs are incredible drums. I remember when they first came out, I'm like, this is a discount kit.
Yeah.
Because the shell quality was so good, man. They just good wood, good bearing edges, well-made drum. They're just cheaper hardware.
Yeah.
Hardware. That was this.
So it wasn't the drums necessarily he was freaking out about, but it was
that
hardware.
Phil doesn't.
That's when they land.
He ain't tickling the drums. He's not all spangling. No.
I'm going to try switching my microphone here real quick.
No worries.
My mic.
That's all right. I can talk for days. Because that's it, man. Again, confidence in the drummer, man. Just changing that vibe, changing that level of stress is important, both as a player and a tech, man, even in your own band.
Is that better, Mary? Hello?
Am
I there, Mary?
It's funny. I'm blessed to work with Dead and Company, and John Mayer is an incredible artist, man. He's a real cool dude as well. He's a gentleman, and a consummate guitar player. I mean, I watch the shows and I'm just like, dude, he's just on another level. But back when I was playing with a kid named Carson Alexander, my wife was managing the band. She had found him at an open mic that I used to play, and I'd gone out on tour. And so she was going to see friends at the open mic because she's lonely. And she calls me up and I found the artist I want. And he was a 15-year-old little tussle-headed kid who could shred-alicious on the Hendrix and the Vaughn. And so we built a band around him. Anyways, flash forward to about 2.5 years later, we're playing this new club in Round Rock. And it's supposed to be the hot new club. And she's real proud that we got it. And we're going to crush it. And we knew we were going to crush it because half the people we didn't know and the other half was our fans. And the club owner was real nervous. Now, that kid's not going to be loud, is he? He's not going to this. Why? I shouldn't even have a kid in this place. Because by now he's like 17. And, you know, it kind of affected the kid a little bit. And our guitar player, Jake, God rest his soul, one of my dearest friends, turns to the kids. He goes, kid, because our opening song was a John Mayer song. All right. It was Good Love on the Way. And he turns to the kid. He goes, kid, don't worry about it, man. We all believe in you. So just lay the mayonnaise on them and we'll take care of the rest. And dude, the whole band starts cracking up, man. Everyone's like, mayonnaise, you know.
That's awesome.
So every time I watch John play, I know he's laying the mayonnaise on him, you know. Stupid, but it was that little stupid moment that calmed the whole band down. Everyone chilled out and we just played. It was like minutes before we went on. And again, that's the thing, man. Just chill and find that way to make the moment happen. Because in the end, that's all that matters, man. Bringing in that extra piece of gear, that whatever it takes to do it, man. Yeah.
We used to make a run down to Southern California about every 3 to 4 months, and I think I still sound garbagey, but show, just like Joff Stone says in the comments, the show must go on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm looking something up quickly. Continue on. I'm listening.
We would make these runs down to LA and San Diego, and we're just the nice guys from Idaho, and we would be playing with other bands from the area, and inevitably you'd run across somebody who doesn't have a guitar strap, or they need a pair of sticks or a cable or whatever. And it didn't seem like there was any camaraderie between any of those bands down there, where here we're used to like whatever you need you can take or use or whatever. And so we'd always be like, oh, you need a guitar strap? Here you go. You need a cable? Here you go. You need a pair of sticks? Here you go. And they just blew them away that anybody would be nice, I guess.
Yeah, some places the competition is part of the culture. But you know, again, it's you just roll with it the way it is. Roll with what you can, you know. And you'd think New York City is a place that wouldn't be brotherly or sisterly, but I remember going up to New York City with my band, The Spoils, my punk rock band, because we had a gig at CBGB's in Continental, Friday and Saturday night, respectively. Right? I traveled with a snare drum and a pedal, bro. My friends were in New York. No, we'll be fine. We'll have drums there. Somebody will let you use their drums. Now imagine if somebody hadn't, and you'd be like, all right, here we are, punk rock band, pedal and a snare, you know?
Yeah.
But by luck had it, I was actually there also right after our gigs. I literally went across the street to a hotel and started doing a show with Kenny Aronoff with Michelle Branch for the Weather Channel corporate, or for a Weather Channel corporate gig. And so the drummer in the band before us, she was really cool. And she was a huge Melissa Etheridge fan, a huge Kenny Aronoff fan. And I said, look, I got no kit, but I'm Kenny Aronoff's drum tech. You know, can I play your kit? And I promise I won't break anything. And I'll do something special for you as well. And I ended up getting Kenny to sign a drum head for her. And I brought it to the place she worked. I think it wasn't Bubblegum Shrimp. Oh, it was like a Bennigan's or some, whatever, an Applebee's or something right there on in Times Square. And I brought it to her, and the look of joy on her face was incredible because she did me a solid. I wanted to do her a solid. And it was amazing that she was willing to do that for me, and so kind, you know. And sometimes, just like you did, hey man, take my gear, just do it.
Yeah.
I was in Rome with Joss Stone, of all people, And I just had that blessed moment when Davey Kirkwood, God rest his soul, legendary sound engineer, brought me up front to say, "Look at the EQ, lad." And I was like, "There's no EQs." "I know, I love you, lad." And the drummer for the opening band was actually our stage manager, had been our stage manager on multiple gigs. And they were great, man. You know, you're in Europe, you're in Italy, and you're like, sometimes somebody don't speak the language. You got to learn how to get along.
Yeah.
And so they've been so kind to me that he came up to me with this snare drum that was all beat up. Like one of the lugs was all tilted. The snare wires were not right. The head was dead. He goes, "Hey, man, would you happen to have a screwdriver I could use?" And I looked at him and said, "No." And I took the drum from him and began to unhead. He goes, "Well, I don't have a head." I said, "I do. I got plenty, man. You've been so good to us. Let me be good to you." And he was like, What? I said, "Dude, let me." And I rebuilt his drum, fixed everything, set the wires, put a brand new head on it, handed it to him, says, "That tension, a little tighter." I said, "Okay, hit it." And a tear fell from his eye because that drum not only sounded great, but that drum was given to him by his drum idol and teacher, who is actually the top drummer in Italy, who played on the single that was #1 in Italy right there for the artist that was opening up for us, and asked him to fill in for him because he was out on tour with somebody else. So it was this big confluence of his life all coming to this great.
Yeah.
And had I just handed him a screwdriver, he would have been spending all his time focused on fixing that drum instead of rocking a show and taking care of us on the stage. So it was worth it to take that head that would be expensive in Europe, but I had plenty of them, and put it on his drum and free him of the worry of the drum sounding good or that. And he was able to focus on us. And, you know, great things happened with that I can't talk about on air afterwards, you know,
Sure.
in the bars, etc. But they showed their gratitude. And, you know, it's the same thing again, Joss Stone. But when I was with Stevie Wonder, we were in Amsterdam for the World Cup final, and we were playing the North Sea Jazz Festival. And Joss had played earlier and crushed it. She just gets better. Every time I see her, she just gets better. And our sax player's sax did not make the flight. It was a fly gig, and he thought it was supposed to go on the truck, and the truck's showing up, but he was actually supposed to put it on the bus or put it in the road pack or the fly pack or whatever it was. And it was a fly gig because we just had our buses barely made it there. And when they got there, we were like, "Hallelujah!" And so we had no saxophone. Oh my God! So I ran over to my fam with Joss Stone and said, "Hey, y'all, this is a situation. Can you do me a solid?" And they were like, "No problem. You're Kenny, bro." Because we were fans, man. And they hooked me up with the saxophone, and they crushed the gig for Stevie Wonder. And, you know, that's what you try to do. If we can do that with each other and create brotherhood, we're winning.
So my wife posted in the chat, I'll just pop it up on the screen. What's the weirdest thing you've had happen on tour? Fred has a story about ghosts in a club. Anything crazy like that?
Man, you know, there's so many little things like that, you know, and
decades of things.
Yeah, dude. And sometimes it's decades of stuff. I mean, ghosts are relative. The only ghost story I have is when I was on tour with the Dead, and I went to the Stanley Hotel and actually saw in person a lot of the things that people only see in their pictures. So I went back to the hotel, got saged, and just, you know, took care of that. But the strange stuff that happens to me on tour is just so many, you know, I don't think about that, but so many just, did that really happen? It's like, oh yeah, that happened. You know what I mean? But a lot of it's like solutions where we fix, you know, like just, I remember, and I've talked about this on the Tour 101 podcast, but I remember when we were touring with Rihanna, CeeLo was the opening act, and he'd always steal the waters that we had set out for Rihanna strategically. And it had become an issue. And one night, he literally took them all. Like the dancers took them. There were no waters for Rihanna. She starts the show. There is no water for Rihanna anywhere. And she was not pleased. And Ree's cool, man. She ain't a diva. She's really cool. She just wants things right. You know, people are like, why do you have a square bottle with, you know, neon tape and a straw? Is she a diva? It's like, no, bro. One, the straw keeps her lipstick from getting messed up. Two, the pink top means she can see it in the middle of the lights. And three, the square bottle means it doesn't fall over in the car prop or the tank prop and she gets water on her ass when she sits in it, and then has to go out and play a whole show with it wet ass. Who wants to dance a show with a wet ass? Nobody. And literally, nobody could figure out what to do. And I said, fine. And because I used to dance when I was young, and I knew the dancers' routines because we'd rehearsed for months, I literally took bottles of water and went, did the dance routine and drop behind the dancers, drop stuff, had to stop at one moment, do the next routine, and then run, just skittering in a way where hopefully you could barely see it. I just looked like another dancer in the row.
Just kind of blended in and did your thing. And
wearing a crew hat, wearing a shirt like this, they were in military garb. Everyone totally saw. But I did it in a way where I didn't look like I was freaking out. But I mean, weird things happen all the time, man. I call them gremlins, and they go. And with the dead, there's always gremlins. And like, I'll go tighten up a kit, I'll walk away from it, nobody plays it, or come back, it's no longer tight. And I truly believe there are gremlins off.
Yeah. That's always the case. It seems you do sound check and everything's good to go, and then I get up there, I put my ears in, I'm like, what is going on here? What happened to the sound? Why does my snare drum feel like it just completely got loose? Like, what happened?
Well, it's funny, man. A lot of times from sound check to the show, especially for the opening act, something might have changed. Something might have gotten unplugged. Yeah. And you don't understand why. But I've had a lot of times where I'm like, why did the mix just change? What just happened? And a lot of times it's just gremlins.
Yeah.
So, but like, I don't know. It's hard to stay. I mean, again, my ghost stories are usually off the stage, or the things you see where you're like, this really happened. And, but a lot of times my stories are actually, I think some degree my karma's good, are the stuff that you don't necessarily expect, like running into someone that you wouldn't expect right at the moment when they need you or you need them. I find, I mean, like, here's a weird moment for you. Again, first tour with Kenny Aronoff, rehearsing with Michelle Branch. I went down to go get drum heads at Sam Ash. I went by cab, came back by cab, and had a great conversation with the cab driver, who was from, I want to say it was like from, it was an Eastern African country, but which I can't remember right now. But anyways, he'd been in the country for like 10, 12 months, driving legally, by the way. And he was getting ready to go back to see his family. Now, the way I found this out was I asked him about the Godiva chocolates and the other stuff I saw in the trunk of his cab. I'm like, who do you call, to make that happen? In case somebody left something behind. He goes, well, you tell me, I'll call the dispatcher. And he's looking at the thing and he goes, but the stuff in the trunk is mine. I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's beautiful. Yes, it's for my children. Oh, your children. And I asked him about it, and we began talking, and he told me, I have a son that has been born that I have not seen yet. And we chatted on about it, and we had a great conversation. When we got done, you ready for strange? The cab driver got out, unloaded my drum heads, and asked for a hug. And I'm like, what? He goes, look, I've had nobody to talk to about the birth of my son since it happened. Oh, wow. I live in a house with 8 guys, and nobody talks to each other. And you've lifted my heart and brought joy to me. And so I'm sitting there, we're getting a hug, I'm getting a hug, and right in the streets of New York City, that don't happen, bro.
Wow.
So it taught me a lesson about always being kind and always being forward with people, and not be afraid to have a little conversation. Don't get in the cab and be all, I'm self-important. Look around at the life around you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so easy to just be staring at this all the time.
Yeah. The box is a terrible thing. I've had moments where, like, when I was younger and had the same haircut, everyone was like, you look a lot like Mick Jagger. You look like Mick Jagger. So again, outside of SIR, when I'm rehearsing with Rihanna, we're sitting there doing rehearsals, and Adam Blackstone comes back in and he goes, I don't mean to sound weird or anything, but I think I just took a piss next to Mick Jagger. And the Stones were actually rehearsing right next door to us. And my drummer goes, you sure it wasn't Kenny? Everyone laughs. I look at him like, really, dude? And then I went out to grab some stuff from the cases, and Mick's security guard was still standing there while Mick took a piss. And he looked at me, he goes, whoa. And I go, yeah, uncanny, right? He goes, yeah, uncanny. The next day, I'm outside doing some stuff in front, or waiting for a delivery. And guess who walks up? The guard with Mick. And he goes, oh, Mick, that's the one. And Mick walks up to me, and I walk up to him, and I did the did the one-handed, Harpo Marx thing. He did the one hand back. He goes,
Yeah.
right, and walks in, dude. But he did it one time. I was like, Mick Jagger, all right. At least he didn't freak out, think I was one of his illegitimate children and run.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been better. Not another one. No.
Another one. What, you've had all these cool experiences and challenges out there on the road and taking care of people. What is your favorite place to do a show that's not in the US?
Oh, that's a hard one. But I will say, even though it's a terrible slog and a terrible walk, the O2 is a great place. You know what? Birmingham and Manchester are also cities I love because, man, the fans are so stoked. But I'm trying to in Paris. It starts with a B. The venue in Paris, the main arena, and it'll strike my head here in a minute, bro. Doing a gig there, it's almost holy. The French people are so passionate about their art that when you get in there and you hear them singing and they're doing stuff, bro, it's a next level experience. Same with doing Summer Sonic in Osaka and Tokyo, two amazing cities with amazing people in them. But when you do Summer Sonic, it's a terrible gig in terms of the gig. It's hot. It's always 120 degrees. They have this thing called Pocari Sweat over there. You'll drink it's like our Gatorade, except it tastes like a foot. And it just, you're drinking it all day long and nothing. You don't go to the bathroom at all.
Oh, wow.
It's terrible. You come home with heat stroke and everything, or back to the hotel. But the people, the audiences, the moments you share with people in that, you can't, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, very cool. Mary says, is it Accor Arena?
No, I want to say it's like the Bercy or something, it's an arena. It's an older one.
Okay.
And it'll come to me. But man, every time I've done a gig there with Stevie or with Rihanna, you're just like, oh.
What's your favorite place to be doing shows in the US?
That's a hard one. There's so many great places. There's so many great venues, man. I mean, A1 Madison Square Garden. A lot of techs don't like it because you have to deal with local one. But bro, I get along fine. I'm from New York. I was born in New York. I'm like, I get it. And if you treat them well, bro, it's a great place to do a gig, man. There's nothing like it. There's a venue in New Mexico that I love, and it's like a shed out there. It's incredible. But if you get down to it, probably Red Rocks, bro. Red Rocks.
I have not been to Red Rocks, but I have some of my drum students that have been there to see shows, and they're like, you gotta figure out how to get there and see something.
It's a bucket lister for sure, dude.
Yeah.
The venue, the backstage area that's carved into the mountain is cool as heck. The staff there is amazing. The production crew there is amazing. They have it together.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting here in this iconic stage that you watched, like we probably watched when we were kids, going, Sunday Bloody Sunday, U2 making it world famous, and there's just something special about it, especially when you do it with the Dead, because the Colorado fans are just huge for the Dead. And you'll do 2 or 3 nights there, and it becomes like your little home for a little bit.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it, man. Nothing like it.
How so with the Dead and Company, you just finished the residency at the Sphere, I think, when we were messaging.
Yeah, another venue that is unbelievably incredible. I had the joy of doing so many things at so many levels at that joint, and it's a technical marvel, and it's pushing the boundaries of live event experiences to a whole other level.
So do you have are you scheduled, or are they doing another leg of something somewhere soon?
Actually, yes, we go back out and we're doing 3 dates at the Golden Gate Bridge for the 60th anniversary of the Grateful Dead. It's actually, it's the first time I've worked with them where they've ever had an opening act. I believe Sturgill Simpson opens one night, Trey Anastasia from Fish is opening one night, and Billy Strings. Sturgill, Billy, and Trey are opening each one night, and it's going to be an incredible event. And
that's awesome.
We've got some very special things planned, but that's It's one of the reasons I love working for Mickey. It's like everything I've learned as a drummer and a drum tech comes together on his gig. There's electronics, there's world drums, there's rope drums, there's drums made out of the skull of a shaman that was given to him on a mountain by some guy tripping on DMT. You know, you're like, here, careful, skull drum, you know. And so, you know, that's a little over the top. But in general, that's what it's like. You're dealing with percussion instruments from all around the world. And, you know, you're dealing with an artist who has reached the edges of the ether when it comes to improvisation and making music go magical places. So, you know, it gives me the opportunity to where everything, you know, he'll turn to me, Kenny, can you? I'm like, yes, I can. Kenny, can you? Strangely enough, yes, I can. You know, and so
you have so I saw pictures and a little bit of video that setup looks pretty complex. Is there a certain spot that you like it's your home base during the show that you're observing everything from, or do you kind of wander back and forth?
Well, it's funny, when we're doing a Normal Dead tour, Mickey actually has us on stage. We're literally on stage. The monitor engineer, John, who runs the beam, the Ableton for the beam. I don't know if you ever seen the beam. It's that big 10-foot kind of guitar-looking thing with piano strings on it, all tuned to a D to make a Pythagorean monochord. That's where he creates the tones that we run through Ableton, like guitar pedals, to create the music that he does for space, in drums and space, or sometimes he'll use it for drums. And it's an amazing instrument. But yeah, the three of us will be right there on stage. But at the Sphere, you're behind the video screen watching on a video camera.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, dudes. And Mickey's not needy, and not demanding. He requires attention. He's you know, sometimes he's too hot. I need a fan. Sometimes he's like, why is that fan on? It's too cold in here. You know, you're just all, you know. So you'd have to run up and fix it, or make sure he had waters, or make sure he had sticks, because he goes through red brushes real quickly. His infamous red brush. And so I had to find solutions for that, like making big, giant stick buckets and mounting them to the rack, making sure all the fans were on remote control, so I could just go, ding, you know, because they don't want you going on stage. It breaks the illusion. And a lot of times the Dead were filling, which means they have to get you a SAG card. You know, they didn't want to do that. And plus, they don't want to break the illusion. They don't want it as some dude running across a perfect moment and making it seem like there was a problem, or there was trouble, or an issue. And I get that. That's professionalism. It's Azoff, man. He's the best.
It's interesting to watch. I don't know, just because of everything that I've done and playing drums and doing shows and I have a hard time immersing myself in the show, because I start looking at everything else that's happening around it.
You kind of ruined it for you, didn't it?
Here with the strings, right? And sometimes you see text just zipping across. Sometimes I think it looks a little unnecessary, but I mean, I'm not the one that's playing. But
well, again,
you see people that are panicked, and then people that are just totally chill about whatever the issue is. And when it's panicking, it's really distracting, because you're like watching tennis. Over here now what's happening?
I brought an artist an empty cup once, the empty cup trick. That's it's like bringing him a cup of tea. You go out there, you go nod to him, put it down, tap the thing, or rip the cable out, plug it back in, or you just squat down and fix a little something, and you stand back up and walk off.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of artists go looking like there's nothing in the cup. I'm like, I know. Okay, show business, baby.
So I think that you and I may have connected. I broke my leg last August when I was in Indianapolis. And I think that's when I started seeing Kenny Sharretts pop up on my Facebook and stuff.
Because you put broken ankle. Yeah. Broken ankle serious, bro.
Well, it was my knee, but so you've had some injuries out there.
Way too many.
Were those all work related?
Pretty much so. I had my face shattered on Rihanna. Tripped over a dude not being safe in the safety walkway, and ended up. And then somebody, because I thought I was going to make it through my little hole under the stage, somebody popped me in the eyes with a flashlight. Rihanna's off the stage. I'm like, I know. Boom. And kind of broke several places in my face.
Oh my gosh.
That was no fun. at all. But you learn to get through it, man. I came home, had surgery because of the concussion. It took me 7 weeks to get home because we didn't know I was hurt. So I actually flew on a plane to Istanbul from Barcelona, and all of a sudden it's all swollen up and stuff. They're like, oh, well, that's not good. And so they got me back home via plane, and then the doctor said, oh, you can't fly for 7 weeks. So I had to do rock shows at full volume when I should have been sitting in a quiet room or maybe riding a little bike in the dark, doing full rock shows. So when I came home after I had surgery, I developed a bit of dyslexia and my speech impediment from when I was a kid, where I couldn't say my "was," came back.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh my God. But you know what fixed it? Music. I went back and studied some of my college, drum texts for snare drum, started studying my old college book for piano and started playing piano and just kind of re-putting my brain together, reading older books and rereading them. And it cleared it up like instantly. It was just like putting your brain back together. And I broke my ankle at a load-in. My ankle got broken at a load-in for Marvel Avengers Live. The stupid machine, which was giant. They had to take a forklift to get it off. Or actually they had a little ATV vehicle that would have to drive it and lift it and tow it and stuff. Or get it off, and it was on a giant cart basically.
Yeah.
And it got ran over my ankle by the machine that shoots Spider-Man across the hammer.
Wow.
I was pretty upset. No, I was really upset.
I would imagine so.
I had rotator cuff surgery about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. And that was inevitably from doing things like being on the road and wrecking on your bike. Oh, we're riding the mountains of Utah. We were actually Deer Park, Utah.
Yeah.
Or Park Valley. And I'm pretty sure that if I look back when I wrecked there, I might have done something. I know I had a couple of bike wrecks when I did the thing, but the wear and tear of touring, of the build, of the push, of the lift, eventually pop, and all of a sudden you're like, oh no. So,
Kenny, you've done all this cool stuff with these great artists, and outside of that, being a drummer yourself and having your own bands and teaching and your YouTube page, which is just amazing. I've learned so much.
Not as amazing as KennySharretts.com, where the current special June tunes are around for $5 off all 3 of my annual lesson packs.
Yeah, this is just like being on YouTube. We're going to get through the commercial first.
All right, but first let's talk about these vitamins.
Yes.
No, but I'm sorry, you asked the question.
Oh, I've learned so much. I always felt like I could tune pretty well anyway, but then watching some of your videos, I'm like, oh, I should really try that. And you mentioned early on when we started talking about, if you can tune drums and they're going through front of house or recording and everything's flat and they sound amazing, that's my goal too, is to make the front of house engineer's job as plug and play as easy as possible. Like,
dude,
these already sound great. I don't have to band-aid them to make them sound good. No,
and that's the thing. Everyone asks, why do you tune in perfect fourths? And I talk about it on my website a lot. I talk about all different tuning intervals. Like even tuning is a great way to start as a drummer. Great drum sound, but it's got a lot of resonance and not a ton of projection. It's a sound. If you want a touch more projection and a little bit of flavor, you go to the whole step, or what I call the Nashville whole step. You have that bottom head, maybe a whole step higher, half step or whole step, whole step. Go with the whole step. Then you have like the minor third, which is a very jazzy tuning. And every time I've tuned drums for people on my online lessons, now available at KennySharretts.com, the jazz drummers, we'd always go with the minor third, and they'd be like, "That's it, that's the one." And so I've learned that. And then there's a major third, which is a warm, round sound, but doesn't quite project as much as the perfect fourth. The thing about the perfect fourth is something about it is it just throws the sound up in the microphone. It's perfectly clean, and it's the only tuning where if I tune the bottom drum head to a note, the drum is that note.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be working on a new video on that topic very shortly, actually this week, about the concept of how to tune drums to notes, because drums, when you tune them, the pitch tends to rise. Not always, but it tends to rise. So if you like have two heads tuned at a D, you're actually going to get like an E, maybe even possibly an F. And depending on how far you are from the kit, but also the mic is right there. And so while I'm going to talk about some of the secret formulas that I know that really kind of guide you when you're tuning drums to a note, because a lot of times people are like, well, we're tuning this, we're going to go and do this song to A. I want to tune all my toms to A. I'm like, well, that's great. You can tune your bass drum to A, your floor tom to A, your snare drum to A. But sometimes your drums don't sound good at those notes. You need different sizes to make those notes happen.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's an art to craft it, to mix the two heads and where you tune them to get that. And sometimes you can be like, oh, the major third's almost an A, but when I do this, oh, there it is. There it is. I got an A, you know? And I'm hoping to reduce the hunt and peck. In that craft, because I've learned it. And so I want to share it with everyone in the drumming world. That way maybe they can get what they want when they go in the studio, or learn ways to complement it. Like if your bass drum can't get an A, maybe choose the fifth or the fourth of that note. That way it mixes well, and then your floor tom can hit that note good. So when you go ooh, you're in the key of the song, you know, and learn how to pick intervals in your drums that create tones that work well in the song.
Yeah.
But that's the other reason I like the perfect fourth, because it creates kind of a chord, and then you have other drums that create a chord, and then it doesn't matter what key you're in, the drum just sounds good, bro. Drum just sounds good. Yeah.
One thing that I've used a lot, and I've sent a lot of my students to your YouTube channel to check out, is the t-shirt pillow.
Yes.
So I have two small kits, because I've got little kids that I teach. So I have the Ludwig Pocket Kit, and I have the Ludwig Break Beats Kit, which I think you were doing a tuning thing on the Break Beats Kit. And you said, okay, I think it was the video, you said, if you haven't seen my video about the t-shirt pillow, you need to go watch that. So I paused that, went over to the t-shirt pillow, and I was like, dude, these little 16-inch kick drums sound thunderous.
Bro, you tune it right and it is done. And because it's a 16, you can tune it low and still get slapped back. But putting a pillow in there or anything else like that, it's too much.
It's way too much.
And like for the longest time on tour, my main way of muffling a bass drum was doing the t-shirt pillow trick, but with a small towel. Cut it fit, roll up the ends like Simon Philip the baffles. But having the terry, and then making it an hourglass in the center, but having the terry cloth in between of a towel, something about it just works better than a big mushy pad. Now the Evans EQ pads are a really good solution in a lot of cases, but something about the extra heft of the roll up combined with the way the terry cloth breaks up the resonance, it gets rid of a lot of the basketball sound naturally that you get in kick drums, and it allowed resonance to occur, but it also kept it tight and punchy. And so when it came time to do the 16-inch kick drum, everyone's like, just let it ring out. I'm like, no, I play pop and rock gigs. Like, you can't do that. You can't be like,
I like that in my chest feeling, and I got that.
I don't want to depend on that sound man to fix that. So that's where the t-shirt pillow came from.
Yeah.
Glad it worked for you. Yay.
Yeah, dude. It and not only me, but my students, because like the little kids because I've got an Amazon associate marketing thing. So through my website, I've got Amazon links, and I got that Ludwig Pocket Kit right there. So, and that Ludwig Pocket Kit stands up to so much abuse, because I'm raising the tom, raising and lowering that kit constantly, depending on how big the student is, and that thing keeps holding up. And so I tell these parents, I'm like, this is a great kit for $380. You get everything, and
bro, you can't beat them. I mean, for a starting kit, I love my Breakbeats kit. I was blessed to be given to it by Drew Scholes of Train.
Nice.
And dude, when I broke my ankle and got back to drumming, I was still in a boot, and so I had to, you can't be hauling drums all over the place, and it's not like anyone in the band's gonna help, right? So I took some lighter weight hardware and used my Breakbeats kit. And the funny thing was at the time I was using my Dynasonic snare. which is an incredible sounding snare drum. I just played my first Dynasonic at a gig the other night. The whole night I'm just like, God, it's just perfect. It's just the ultimate snare sound. And with that little breakbeats kit and that snare drum, every gig I played, the sound man would come up to me and go, hey man, what snare drum is that? I said, it's a Rogers Dynasonic. It's one of the new reissues. Man, that's the best sounding snare drum I've ever mixed. I mean, like literally every sound guy. And then they look at the 16-inch kick drum and go, so you got a trigger on that kick? I'm like, no. Do you have a trigger line for the kick? Well, no, I don't have a trigger line. Then why did you ask me if I had a trigger? Well, it just sounds so good. I didn't expect it to be boomy. And dude, that kick crushed it for me for a long time. Now, mind you, when I bring my Rogers, this Power Tone kit here, or my my Covington kit out, man, now we're talking about that.
Yeah.
But for the little gigs I was doing, man, that kit crushed it. And it's a great teaching kit. It's a great kit for students first time out, especially if they're young.
Yeah, when I have 3 kits in this room when I'm not doing this, and that's my main full-time deal is teaching. And on the other side of this screen, I've got my bigger DW kit, but I put the breakbeats kit here and the pocket kit here, and I just want, when my students show up and play, it just sounds and feels good, and this room sounds good because I record in here all the time. I do drum tracks for people, and they get in this room and they start playing. They're just like, and they're like, how do I get my kick drum to sound like this? I'm like, watch this video.
Well, again, that's the thing, dude. It's like the joy of my lessons, one of the joys of the lessons for me, especially if it's just online or in person, the first thing that usually makes me happy is I can remind people your tuning skills actually aren't that bad. Most of the drummers that come up with, they got some good fundamentals. And so the lessons I teach, especially one-on-one, the packs online are great. They're going to walk you through it. You're going to learn the technique. It's 1, 2, 3. And all of a sudden you're like, really? And I'm like, really? So there you go.
Yeah.
Plus using a pitch reference is important, but we'll get to that. But it's taking the fear out of these cats thinking they don't know how to tune a drum. It's like, no, you ain't bad. But you just got to learn these first few things, fine-tune that interval, get that, and then they're like, oh my God, my drum sounds so good. And, and that's the thing, like I think you probably learned through watching my channel is that pitch reference is everything. When it gets down to tuning, man, everyone's like, whoa, you don't tune to notes, you tune to tension. I'm like, really? Okay, well, what tension is that? Well, it's this hertz. And I'm like, or is this, it's this PSI, because they use a drum dial. It's an 82. I'm like, well, what's the sound of an 82? Well, it's this frequency. Well, what is the frequency, the sound of? A musical note. Ah, you got me. And I'm like, see, but here's the thing.
Come here.
Yeah, what does 82 PSI sound like? Your brain has no reference point for what 82 PSI sounds like.
Yeah.
But it does know what a note sounds like. And if you use a pitch reference, like a lot of times I just use a phone on my phone on GarageBand. Having a pitch reference tells your brain and your ears what to listen for. And all of a sudden, guess what? You've done ear training. They spent 3 years in music school giving you ear training for a reason.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the more your ear can hear what's out of tune, what's not out of tune. The thing that's important to me, and I try to remind drummers this all the time, is that I'll see them walk up to the drum. They'll tap one lug, they'll tap another lug and go, oh, that one's low, and start tuning. It's like, no. Listen to the whole drum. Listen to the whole drum. Head to toe. Go around that drum. Listen. Get the picture. Because then what happens is you'll see where it's out of tune. And you will hear where it's out of tune. And a lot of times once you start tuning, you'll feel where it's out of tune. So now your eyes, hands, ears are all telling your brain what to tune. And it just, all of a sudden, it's like so many people are like, well, I can't really hear it. After we do an online lesson, guess what they can do?
They can hear it.
Yeah, bro. And then they're like, well, I can't, see what's out of tune. I'm like, and then I start talking to them about the geometric patterns I teach and the geometric patterns that are common and untuned, and the drum coming untuned, which you can learn in my lesson packs at KennySharretts.com or with an online lesson at KennySharretts.com.
So when you're tuning, like you've done this so long, and I'm a big fan of the 2-key tension system, because even like if I'm in a noisy environment and I'm checking everything, I feel where that drum's supposed to be.
Bro, it's half the game. Half the reason I mean, 1-2 tiny X big X on a 10-leg snare drum is the bomb, because not only does it balance the head evenly, press it down versus rock it down, stretch it evenly from the center, and balance it as it goes around. The goal of it is to basically make sure all your tension rods start at roughly the same thread, so tension is equal.
Right.
And that, because if you have one that's screwed in all real hard and then you go at all the others, they won't go in as deep to match pitch, because tension is relative, and all of a sudden they all sound like, oh, it's good enough, it sounds the same. Then you start playing, guess what? All the ones that aren't cranked in come loose, and all you get that one cranked down. If they're all at the same thread level, the tension is relatively the same, they tend to stay in tune longer.
Yeah.
And then when you go to, you're playing a snare drum, you're like, in between songs, you go, man, it feels a little loose. You follow that pattern that I talk about, and all of a sudden you're not guessing no, follow the pattern, done.
Yeah.
Check a tuning instantly between two songs. And the best part is, like you said, feel. All of a sudden you're like, oh, that ain't right. There it is. Boom. And you're back in the game. Yeah. Which is especially helpful if they've been feeding you shots at the bar or at the frat party. And you're like, which star did I do? I don't know. I do 1-2 tires, big X. Woo!
Yeah. Well, you always get the experts that come out of the woodwork too.
You know what? I try not to judge. I try to let people do what they want to do. I'll see a lot of things, and there's elements of all these tuning things. Like I saw Rick Beato do a tuning video where he presses down the hoop and tunes it until the wrinkles are gone, then just kind of shapes it up. If it works for you, great. Yeah. However, I know the press thing is only really when you're dealing with certain warped drums or little places where you have a dip in the bearing edge and you got to make it sound good. That's when I do that. Or on bass drums where I'm like, check for press, because I'm all about starting it finger tight so your pitches are all the same and then tuning from there. Yeah. And if you use my system and do that, it's literally like tuning a guitar. You're like, wow, that was quick and easy, and everything is balanced and sounds great. And then you have the Rob Beatdown Brown method, and that dude's, I love that dude. That dude's such a great teacher. He's got such a YouTube channel. The tuning, if it works for you, it works for you, but that's not repeatable. You're going to get different. You're going to get a different tuning every time you use it. It's not dependable. It's not repeatable. It'll get you there. It'll get you.
And today is repeat day, remember?
And that's the thing about my method. Is it's repeatable.
Yeah.
I do it every day, man. I want lunch. I want it done before noon. We get the stuff out of the truck at 10 or 10:30. I want it done by noon. I want the head stretched, tuned, kit up. That way, not only can I get lunch, but then the sound guys can mic it. We can go a little early on line check. Everyone's happy. Line check basically becomes sound check, and they're like, dude, we don't need to do anything else. And then they're sitting there at sound check like this, just watching the band play because everything's right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the other thing. I have to have a repeatable system because a lot of the settings for audio are preset. They pull up a scene. And in that scene for this song, in most arenas, this is the EQ they use and the setup they use. When I say EQ, I mean like shelves and gates, basically. They shelf here, they shelf here. This is where the drum exists. And if you aren't hitting that mark every show, you're going
right. Yeah.
Or the audio guy, you're staying there because you're best friends with the cousin of the drummer, and the audio guy just hates you. And if you think your audio guy doesn't hate you, they hate everything.
They hate you.
They hate you.
James Harrison has a question for you. Studio legend Larry London used to detune 1-detune lug method to get an amazing sound. How do you feel about drummers that use a similar method?
Okay, first of all, in a sense, whatever works for you, if it works for you, by all means use it. 2, that's going to give you a specific sound. That's going to give you a drop sound, right? You're going to get that almost snare kind of drop that people love in drums. However, if you tune it to a minor third and you want a rich tom sound, you want it to be rich and round and maybe put a little muffling just to control it so you get a doom. That is a great way to do it, a minor third or the lug down method. I like on my snare drums, if you got too much excess buzz, go around the snare beds and lower each one down a little bit. It's not in perfect tune, but if it kills the snare beds and still sounds good, good.
Yeah.
Good. man, it's a great way to do it. If you, again, any tuning method that works for you, the raw bar method, if it works for you, I just know it's not repeatable. But the one key method or the one lug down method, it is repeatable, because if you tune the drum perfectly and then you go a quarter down, you're like, there it is. You know, when I came to Austin, drummer at the Saxon Pub showed me that he was a 2-key. He kind of tuned down the 2-key front top, and then he could just have no muffling because it kills the resonance of the drum. But I also know a lot of drummers out there, they want their drums to sing out, no muffling, no anything. And man, you better have some even tuning if you're going to do that. It better be balanced and kicking. Otherwise, this one guy will really hate you. You can't have wah, 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 wah.
Right.
On, you know?
I think I'd like to ask you this, because James, who's here in the comments, I've known James for a long time, and he's in Virginia now, but he's been doing these little drum hot topic discussions, these little reels, and talking about tuning and then muffling, like using different muffling methods to achieve a certain sound. And then I guess this is the world we live in, is all the drum experts that live in mom's basement come out and say, well, you don't need any of that if you know how to tune.
Oh, that's my favorite. Okay, first of all, they all say that, and then a lot of these guys I'll meet, and they'll be like, oh, my kid's tuned, and I'll be like, really? Okay, cool.
And I gotta have to roll
I'll grab one drum just to make the point clear, not to be rude.
Yeah.
But because they're usually kind of aggressive in their arrogance about how well they tune. So I fix the drum, and all of a sudden they have one drum that sounds great and 3 or 4 that don't.
Yeah.
And well, can you tune the other ones? Not unless you pay me. Now, if they've been real cool and had a great tuning, but it was just a little bit of love, I'll give them a little bit of love. I'm out on tours with a lot of opening bands like you were, and I'd see the drum tech out there, you know, tuning the drum and just going and turning it and then going, you know, and I was like, no, you kids are so cute. I can't do that. And I teach them how to tune. We tune up the kit, and then the band's tackling me off, you know, after the show because their intermix sounded so good and their show sounded so good because the drums were tuned well. And, you know, I try to give love, but to those basement, you know, authorities, if it works for you, good. However, you know, they always say, well, Danny Carey doesn't use any muffling. I'm like, yeah, Danny Carey's got a professional sound crew. Is your guy at the local club ready to handle your, how about at church? You know, mufflers at church inside your box? Oh my God, could you imagine that? Trying to praise and worship when all you hear is go, 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 go.
Right.
I like a wide open kick. Ooh, Godzilla has come to praise and worship with you. You know, fuck. Godzilla is here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But what I say is this. Again, A, what works for you works for you. B, muffling is not your enemy, it's your friend. Rings, moon gels, drops, there's a lot of things you can use to craft. Cotton bells in the tom. I have the cotton ball in the tom video. It's a great way to kill a little bit of resonance, shave it off, and make a natural gate. So mainly so the drum's not humming on its stand or humming next to the stand, because the stand next to it is all the drum's like, you know, you don't want that going during the show, but if you use a gate on your tom, all of a sudden it's 1982.
Yeah.
And you hear the gates opening and closing in the PA, and people are like, what is that? Was that a special effect? Did you have triggers on your drums? You got a trigger line on that? You know, and muffling to me is the thing that allows your kit to sound like a kit. If you tone it down a little bit all around the kit, the microphones can pick up what they're supposed to pick up. And there you go.
Yeah.
You know? But also it's about crafting a sound. You know, you want that dead 70s tom sound like Steve Gadd. What does Steve Gadd put on his drums? Rings, you know, or he uses hydraulics and rings, you know, and it's when you're trying to recreate a sound, that's where muffling comes in. Because I mean,
I really like that you said crafting a sound.
That's what we're doing.
Because it's not, and James and I have had the same discussion too, is I think being able to tune your drums really well and they sound good, I think that's an important skill set for multiple reasons. But then the people that just say that you don't need muffling or you don't need rings or gel or anything like that, you need to know how to tune. I mean, we're living our world in this little 45-second clips. So, but it's just like, come on, think about it for a second. Like, okay, Wide Open, that's a great place to start. And if you can live in that world, great. But then, if I'm tracking a country song and I want that really dead sound, I got little handkerchiefs over the toms. Just
the Hal Blaine, theory, or the Ringo Starr. They have the towels over the toms, dude. You see Hal Blaine's kit and all the old pictures covered in tape and towels.
Yeah. It's not because I don't know how to tune. It's because we want this desired result.
It's not about tuning. It's about the sound of the drum within the studio. And you got minutes. You got minutes. Studio time's expensive. If all of a sudden you're spending, and also, to be honest, muffling kills excess snare buzz.
It does.
See, that's what a lot of people don't think about, man. And when it comes to snare buzz, I have a video on it that I did out on Train, and that method works. It just works. It's about leveling and balancing the snare drums, like making sure it's even, not like this, parallel, each butt of the plate, parallel to the shell, so the wires pull evenly. So when you brush across them, they all feel the same tension. Because if it's not, you got some that are loose and they resonate and ring and sing. But even if you do that perfectly, there's a lot of snare drums, especially ones with shallow snare beds, where guess what? It's still a ringing.
Yep.
And that little trick I talked about tuning down the lugs around the snare bed works, but there's still a ringing. Well, put the ring on or the gel on, and all of a sudden, guess what disappears?
That buzz.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Wait, I saw Kenny Sharretts use gel. He doesn't know how to tune.
It's when I was with Stevie Wonder.
No gel for you.
No gel for you. When I was with Stevie Wonder, I always put a little piece of gel on the 10, half on the 10 and the 12, big ones on the 14. I put one on the snare. And when we had the fat snare to the left, I had the two up like Mickey Mouse, plus with two tape tents. Or actually Mickey Mouse tape tents and like at least one gel in the middle to give it that fat Motown sound.
Yeah.
And on his floor tom that was to the left for the Motown kit, I tuned it to a minor third, put a coated ambassador on top, coated ambassador on bottom, and did the tape tent and a moon gel. And the second Stanley hit it, Stevie was like, because it sounded like a record from the 60s. It gave us what we needed for that section of the show. And it wouldn't have happened without muffling. Go back and look at all your old recordings. They got sheets on them. They got tape on them. They got all kinds of stuff on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, because it was too much resonance. Can we take off that bottom head? Take that bottom head off. Hey, man, you going to do something about that snare bass?
Yeah.
Sorry, wait. You going to do something about that snare bass?
Right.
You don't want to see this when they're going for the mic in the studio. Hey, man.
Yeah. Or you don't hear anything. You just see the discussion happening.
And you're the worst.
What's going on? We're going to let the drummer sit in there uncomfortably for the next 10 minutes while we talk about him.
And then after he's done, we're going to bring in the drummer we like, and he's going to play the parts anyways.
Yeah.
I actually got replaced recently on my own recording, and I'm happy. Oh yeah, dude.
Oh no.
We cut the drums here. They sounded great, but just to make sure they were ready for the other studio cats that we were going to have do it, we graded them just to make sure they're really tight and nice, right?
Yeah.
And it sounded great to start, but as we progressed with the song and more was added to the song, we realized, hey, we need to extend the intro to double, and then, hey, we're just going to use one bass drum on the verse there instead of a constant. It's a country song, so it's a constant pounding bass. And in the choruses, even though it's nice old school country that used rim click in the first two choruses, you need snare. It makes it lift and go and lift and go. And so the producer goes, hey, man, I hope you don't mind. I had this legendary Nashville drummer play on your song. And I'm like, he's one of my old clients. I'm fine with that. He's one of the best in Nashville. It's like, man, my song gonna sound great, dog.
Yeah.
Plus now I get reinforced because I get to hear what a Nashville legend played, and I get to go, That's kind of what I would have played if I was being aggressive about my country. So it reinforced my instincts and let me know, hey, man, when you're doing this, go more like that. Because that's how Kenny Aronoff stayed with John Cougar, man. He got replaced on the first set of recordings, and he shows up at the studio next day, and Mellencamp's like, why are you here? He goes, if I'm going to do this gig, I need to learn what it is I'm not doing right.
Yeah.
And maybe
I love that story.
All right. Yeah, dude. It got him the gig, dude. Got him the gig.
I love that story. I like watching Kenny's videos. They're so inspiring. His book is great. That Sex, Drums, Rock and Roll book.
Yeah, I still need to pick that up. I've just been so busy and so going.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. Once you pick it up, it's hard to put down.
Yeah. Kind of like Kenny.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you got replaced on your own song, and there was a lot of buzz over the last few weeks about Josh Freese losing his gig with the Foo Fighters. Have you ever been out on tour doing your thing and they go, "Hey man, we're bringing somebody else in"?
Yes. Twice in my 23 years. The first one was my second tour where I didn't know all the politics yet. I didn't know all the details. Oh, and the artist's brother became the drum tech. He was out there on tour a lot, not doing much, and also he's the drum tech. But he's become a great drum tech in the process, and I love the dude. He's a great guy. But I was not doing well in the camp. It was time for me to go. I had to get spanked down for my lessons. And then later in time, when I was in super tech mode, I was just too much for the artist, as they put it. Just like it became a conflictual thing, and that was okay because when it was one of my favorite artists in the world, and when they let me go, they were kind of rude about it, and I got to turn around and have one of the best days of my life where they were like, "Well, I'm sure a guy like you will find a gig soon enough." They were all talking down to me because I work for a lot of famous people. And they felt inferior about it. I don't know why. It's one of my favorite bands on the planet. And 3 days later, I got to send him a text saying, "I want to use the FedEx to send some stuff back to you because I'm not a thief. Thank you very much. Kenny shares drum tech." Boom, boom. I'm not going to mention the name, so I'm not rude to anybody. But it was a nice slap in the face to them, and it was okay. It was okay. It was time for me to move on. The universe needed me over here, and it again propelled my career again to a whole nother level. And it was time. I learned some lessons about conflicting with my clients. I learned lessons about, no matter how, what do they say? No good deed goes unpunished. I'm doing all these good deeds, but the artist took it as a threat to his position or disrespect.
Yeah.
Like I had Ludwig snares on his Ludwig snare drums. I helped him get a Ludwig deal, and the snares kept breaking. Snare wires kept breaking. And the sound guy wanted a bit richer sound. He's like, "That's a bit tinny for this band." I'm like, "No problem." So I put some awesome Custom Pro 24-strand brass wires on there. And the snare sounded amazing. But when the Ludwig rep came in, he was like, "You replaced our snares?" I was like, "Yeah, they're breaking all the time, bro." "Well, why didn't you call me?" I said, "I have. You were never available. And what do you want from me? Are you going to get Ludwig to fix this whole company thing?" Well, it turns out probably so. And guess what they did after I told them? They worked on it.
Yeah.
But the wires would pop off like all the time in the middle of the show, and then you have a wire whap, 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 whap.
Oh, yeah.
We can't have that.
Right.
But he took it as I was just trying to get my friend's product on its drums, and it wasn't. It was about giving my artist the best sound possible, and I truly believe that that is one of the best set of snare wires on the planet. The Custom Pros are designed to minimize snare buzz. They're designed to give you a deep, rich sound. You put 24 on, you get more than enough snare. You don't have to go 40 wires, 30 wires. I mean, I will say the Fat Cat 30, I love that thing.
Mhm.
If you really want the massoid drum sound. But when you start getting to 40 plus wires, it's hard to get rid of the snare buzz because the wires go past the width of the snare bed.
Yeah.
And then you have to start altering the tuning, altering things, muffling to get rid of the snare buzz, no matter how evenly you tune those wires. So
When you lost those gigs, did you know in that moment that it wasn't the right fit, or did you have like the knee-jerk reaction, like what? And then later realize that wasn't the case, or what are your thoughts on that?
On the first one, it was so instantaneous that I was like, "What? Good." It taught me a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
There were lessons learned there. The second time, I was a little bit more like, "What? What do you?" Well, you know what? It's okay, because I learned from the first one. If it's time to move on, it's time to move on.
Yeah.
And that's just the music business. Sometimes you're hip, sometimes you're not. and it ebbs and flows. So
I got
lessons.
another buddy of mine who's a drum tech, tours around. Ron Heiss. I don't know if you know Ron at all, but he's been out with Marilyn Manson teching for Gil. Is Gil's last name Sharon? I think that's drumming for Marilyn Manson right now.
I think possibly, yes.
He has these great gigs, and some of them for a long time, like did drums for Chris Frazier for Foreigner, and then was out with Megadeth for a long time with, what's that drummer's name? Dirk? I can't remember. But
so many drummers, so little time.
Yeah, he'll have these tour, like I think with Megadeth like 2 years, and Foreigner for a couple of years, and I know he did. What's the big Trans-Siberian Orchestra?
Yeah. Yeah.
He'll have these really awesome gigs, and then those tours in is like, oh, there's no work. Do you have those lulls too, where it's like, wait a second?
Yes, there's always lulls. For me, it was different. My wife of 28 years, God rest her soul. It became important to me to spend time with her, so I balanced it. Like when I got going at first, it was like, what am I going to do? I got to find a gig, and then the gig would end. I got to find a gig. But a lot of times I'd do a 5 or 6 month tour, like American Idols is 5.5 months, but on that year, I'd also done a month and a half with Kelly Clarkson, a month with Peter Frampton, and then 4.5, 5 months with American Idol. It's a lot of time to be gone from home.
Yeah.
And when I was with Stevie, that came in 2007, like after that year of Idols and all this stuff. And he was gone for like 4, maybe 5 months out of that year. Then the next year, I mean, you're not going to leave Stevie. Why would I pick another gig? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'd come home, I'd teach, I'd play drums. And, money may have been tight, but it was worth it because I could spend time with my wife and we could enjoy life, and I could play some music and still live and dream, and then go work with Stevie. And then, when Rihanna happened, I was gone for 2.5 years straight.
Wow.
I mean, I was around, but like the first year I was gone like 8 months. Next year I was home back and forth because I was doing Stevie and Rihanna. It was like this fateful event where just every gig lined up and everything was amazing. Like there was a point in time where we did Rock in Rio with Stevie in Lisbon, then flew to London to do the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. And then the next day I went across the street to a different hotel, or across town to a different hotel, and started rehearsals with Rihanna for her European leg. Then I finished that up, came right back, and then literally like was home for a day, and then boom, I was off to Japan with Rihanna for Summer Sonic. Only to come right back and like for a week, and then boom, doing a 4 or 2 or 3, 4 gig run between Australia and England for Stevie Wonder, and then right back to do 777, this tour we did with 7 shows in 7 countries in 7 days with Rihanna. Came back, did a couple of more shows in Europe with her to make up for some shows we missed, and then came to LA to do Stevie Wonder's House Full of Toys at the same time we were filming The Voice for Rihanna. It was that kind of synchronicity. But after that, it was too much for the marriage, and I love my wife, and I wanted it to work, and I wanted to be with her. So I stopped touring so powerfully and started this channel so I could find a balance with teaching, selling videos, and creating income that supported the channel, but also supported us a little bit so I could actually be home some.
Yeah.
And not have to pound on tours. So I went through my period of just being the man, hitting every tour I could. And I'm pretty sure that if I wanted to, I probably could again. I'm blessed to have some great connections, great artists I work with, but it can drop out when you least expect it.
Yeah.
Like, I've been with the Dead for 4 years. There's a lot of opportunities that are now no longer there for me that have other opportunities have filled. And I got a lot of calls for things, got a call for Kendrick Lamar. That would have been 2 years, but it wasn't the right time for me to go. Sure. And so I believe that's when Cedric Kraut got the gig, and that dude's awesome too. I love that dude. And but you have to also realize you can't do every gig. And in the process, I also realized that, hey, Cedric Kraut's career from that just blew wide open, just like mine did when I went with Stevie and Rihanna. And sometimes you not taking a gig lets somebody else succeed, and that's great. It's not okay. That is great.
Yeah.
But then you have what's called a network.
Yeah,
Network
absolutely.
A cat's like, hey, I got to go to this next tour. That's my main money, but I'm finishing up this thing. Can you cover the last month? And the answer is yes. And that's where you do it. I did my 5 months and then 1 month over here. And then you don't get divorced, but you still have enough money to make ends meet.
Kidding. I came this close to doing a drum tech job.
Don't do it. Keep playing. Don't do it.
So Lou Graham's front of house guy lives here in Boise. And so last July, he called me. He's like, hey, and he never just calls for small talk stuff. He's got something important to ask me. And I at first said, does Lou need a drummer? And he goes, no, but he's going to need a drum tech.
I know. You're all, Lou Graham needs a drum.
Yeah, I could play those Foreigner songs. I guess I could.
I want to know what love is. I want to know.
Exactly. And he said it was going to be for 2 weeks, like the last 2 weeks of October or something of that nature. And so I was expediting my passport because I needed a passport. And lo and behold, I'm in Indianapolis. I'm on a scooter. Sidewalk drops 12 inches unexpectedly, break my leg. So
no.
So my drum tech resume disappeared in that moment.
It's funny. Everyone's like, why don't you mountain bike anymore? It's like, no, I'm good. Why don't you want to ride the scooter? No, I don't. Because that's lost work.
I grew up riding motocross bikes and doing dangerous things. And
at
this point in my life, I'm like, after that accident, I'm like, nah, the bike's got to go. I just gotta
go.
I got to keep these limbs working, man.
Gotta go. It's funny because like even on planes, when I travel on planes these days, a lot of people are like, why do you wear a mask on a plane? Because I wear a mask most of the time. And it's because the 2 times I've gotten COVID, I was on a plane.
Oh, wow.
But also the reality is this. One, my boss is 82 years old, bro. Hello?
Yeah.
But also, this is the work I do. This is the time I have set aside. It comes, it goes. And while you're working, work as much as you can. Because if you walk in COVID hot, you're screwed. Somebody else is having to cover you, or they're like, you came in COVID hot, you're fired, whatever. And I try to do things strategically to make sure that I'm making my money. So that's why I don't write the script and go do the thing. But it's probably best because, man, I'm telling you, it's like you've toured, you've enjoyed it, you've done it. And, for drummers who were like, I've never done that. And then you get the opportunity to go tech, take it, run, go, enjoy, get a piece of it. So you can at least say I did it. I went out on tour. I went to Europe. I went to Japan, Australia, wherever you went. Because usually there's one-offs who are like, hey, mate, we got to go to Australia and our drum tech has legal issues. And you're like, oh, well, I'm going. I'm in.
Yeah. You're the problem solver, Kenny. I'm the problem solver.
A lot of times that's how I've gotten my gigs in my career, where they needed the problem solved and I had to come in and solve it. And it's not that other tech was bad or anything. It's just, again, sometimes it was politics or not right for the moment. And, I'll take that. But, you also have to remember, don't let your ego get too big, because you replace somebody, which means you are replaceable.
Right. Kenny, we're up at 2 hours here, buddy. I thank you so much for dedicating your time to be on the show today and all the information that you can share. And it's inspiring. And KennySharretts.com.
Yeah, KennySharretts.com, man. June Tune special right now. $5 off a lesson pack. You can get my bass lesson pack for $40, which is less than you'd pay at Guitar Center to have your kid learn how to play Highway to Hell. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just being honest, well, my kid took an hour lesson at Guitar Center. He could barely play Highway to Hell and it cost me $60. Well, this one's going to cost you $40 if you use my June Tune coupon.
That's
code.
Right.
And you're learning lessons from a guy who tunes drums for Rihanna, Stevie Wonder, Janet Jackson.
Right.
As I say, my motto is, I'm not just some guy in his bedroom teaching you how to tune drums. I'm a world-class drum tech in my bedroom teaching you how to tune drums.
That's right. Look, I'm a big believer in going to people that have the information that you need. And
It's one of my favorite stories was having two drummers, both in Cleveland, who took lessons from me. And the one drummer's in the opening act, he's playing, the other drummer's watching, he's syncopating himself. This guy's drum sound is great. This guy's drum sound is great. Then the second drummer the first drummer saw the second drummer play. He goes, this drum sound is great. And then they met up afterwards before the headliner played. He goes, hey man, your kid sounds good. He goes, Kenny Sharretts. He goes, you too?
Yeah.
This is what I want, man. The guy who helped me make the White Room series, he went to Columbia, where he was from, for a friend's wedding. And, he always like, I don't know if these drum videos are going to go anywhere or do anything. Who's going to watch this anyways? Then he goes, sees his band play, because for the bachelor party, the day before the bachelor party, they all went out to see their friend's band play because they're blowing up in Columbia. And the drums sounded good. He's a sound engineer. Drums sounded good. He walked up to his friend and goes, hey man, those drums, they sound so good. He goes, Kenny Sharretts. He goes, what? He goes, haven't you heard of him? Kenny Sharretts. He's a drum tech, man. I learned everything from him. And this was the guy that helped me film the videos, and that's when it dawned upon him. We've gone around the world, dude. So it's my honor to share, dude.
You're making the world sound better one drummer at a time.
One drummer at a time, bro.
Yeah. Dude, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man. This was actually a blast. You're an incredible personality, dude. I love it.
Thank you.
And, I love the fact that you're doing this. I hope you success for your podcast. And I hope,
appreciate that.
Thank you for doing it, because you're bringing drum knowledge to everyone all around, giving us drummers something to geek out about. And by doing so, I think you're opening a world up to people that they might not have normally seen if you weren't doing your podcast.
Right.
So thank you, man.
Everybody, thank you for joining in. If you watch the replay, I appreciate that too. Make sure you go to Kenny Sharretts' YouTube channel, like and subscribe. You're going to get all this really great information. And then go to KennySharretts.com as well. Give him a follow on Instagram. Is there any place else they should be paying attention?
I have my Facebook drum page. I have my Instagram page, but really, YouTube and my website, because YouTube's going to get you in the door. My website, there's a lot of free stuff up there, free charts, free blogs, and a couple of free lessons. But I think when you see what's going on, you'll go, man, that's dirt cheap for a lesson.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's dirt cheap. And it's, how do I say this? I can promise you, I can almost guarantee you pretty much, I'll go with a 95%, that not only is it going to change the way you tune drums, but you're going to, even if you know everything about tuning, you're going to learn something new. But it most likely, I'm going to give it a 90% guarantee, 95% guarantee, it's going to change the way you tune drums, bro. And that, to me, makes me happy, because it's not about, oh, I'm the best, I know the most. What I want is the joy on your face. Sounds the way you want it to. When you learn to get the drum sound you want every time you tune.
I love that. All right. So Kenny, hang out for just 1 second. I'm going to end this. And thank you so much again, people, for joining in. And we'll catch you next week.